Before I say this, actually, we're recording. You're always doing something funny whilst
like
I'm saying the intro,
because I
and
get really like awkward because I know
right, because you're
what's
just
coming. And
right, okay, because it puts me off because I can see you in the corner of my eye, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Anyway, look, the
oh,
people want to hear it. Let me give them the
oh.
welcome to the Quick Stop Formula.
It's what
For
I
the
do.
people,
They love it.
for the people on Spotify, I don't know, on Spotify you can't see, but Tandy is literally just like an octopus in the
Yeah.
background. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, welcome to the Quick Stop Formula One podcast. My name is Nyasha, and you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. We appreciate that. Joining me, as ever, is my co-host and co-founder, doing all kinds of weird shit in the background.
Yeah.
It is Thandie Sabanda. Thandie, how are
I'm
you? What?
good. I'm
Yeah,
fantastic.
you're fantastic. I'm
Yeah.
really happy to hear that. Before we get into anything, we've got so many cool things to bring you. We've got a bumper episode today, but
Mm-hmm.
I have to ask you guys to subscribe to this channel.
Yeah. Do you know what? We need to start putting things to your necks. You better
Like,
subscribe.
you guys are taking the content, yeah, and you're not subscribing. Over 51% of you are not even subscribed. You're watching this, yeah.
The vibes. You just coming to stare. What?
Wow, you just come. You want to take, and
We
you're
gotta
not giving.
give.
Do you know what I mean?
You know
Give
how
us a little
and
something.
stuff like that in Amsterdam in the red light district. You're not allowed to just stare. You have to give.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Yes, yes, you do. I love it. I love it. I love it. One day after a conversation we've had about cleaning up the podcast, and this is what you're bringing to the table. Jesus. But no, that is true. You cannot just stare in the red light district. So I've heard. But look, for all you voyeurs staring into our windows, all we're asking for is a little subscribe on the YouTube. Please, it really helps. We're so close to monetization. We only need another 70 subscribers, I think. So help us get to 1,000 because it's going to enable us to. We're at a stage now where we want to expand, we want to do different things, we want to do different content, we want to upgrade our equipment, all these types of things, and small things like that. You don't realize it will really, really help with that.
Yeah,
And,
I mean,
do you know what I mean?
be kind.
Be kind.
Yeah.
Be kind. Do you know what I mean? That's what we're asking.
What's wrong?
Well, do you mean like a little subscribe? And then for you guys listening on audio platforms, can you follow us? Obviously, if you're on Spotify, you can rate us on Spotify now.
Pick
If you
your
go on the
phone
podcast,
up.
pick your phone.
Pick your device up.
Pick your phone up.
Pick your phone up right now.
Right now.
I know you're listening to me. Pick up your phone. Pick it up.
Phone.
Yeah?
You know, actually, what I was really surprised about is that like 80% of people who listen to us through their phone.
Yeah.
I listen to everything on my computer. I hardly listen to stuff on my phone. So obviously, but also I'm old. Follow us on Spotify.
Pick your phone up.
Pick your phone up.
Rating, subscribe, follow. Now go
Rate.
to Twitter at Thandie Tweets and tell me you've done it.
Yeah, tell us you've done it.
Yeah.
And you know what? You know Thandie means it when she's saying interact with me, guys. She's welcoming the interaction as opposed to ignoring
interact. So if I'm welcoming the interaction, it means I'm willing to reply.
Yeah, Joanne, this is a big fucking deal. Okay,
yeah.
This is the time. If you want to get a reply from Thandie, now is the time. tell her you rated the thing.
Yeah,
I really appreciate it. Right, that was that section. Thandie, what you wearing?
So, as you can see, I have this.
Hey, don't piss me off. Oh gosh! You're looking
cool, top on. Let me stand.
Oh my gosh! Look at that! Oh my gosh! Wow, that's just like what is that?
Size 6 to 8 women's for little small little babes, or if you like a tight t-shirt and you like them muscles and pecs to be bulging out, I get this size. I know some of you guys. I know some of you. Yeah. Styled it with these lovely
You styled it.
folds.
Lovely. Sorry, for those of you who can't see, we are previewing our merch. That is our merchandise. The merchandise is here. Let's get a round of applause. The merchandise is here. It is going to be available to buy. It's got a lovely. We dedicated it to Lewis. I'm going to show you the design on the back. Can you see? Can you see it? Look at
It was
that.
all a dream. I used to read
When's
Word Up
read What Up
magazine.
magazine? Salt and
Oh,
pepper and Henry D. I'm in the limousine. There you go.
There you go.
So it's basically yes, Lewis Hamilton slash Biggie Smalls mesh thing with the to all the kids out there who dream the impossible. It was a moment that obviously is going to be enshrined in history forever. And yeah, we just wanted to put it on a t-shirt, and now we've got it, and it's going to be available to purchase at the beginning of next month. We're doing a pre-order of 2 weeks. If you do not order it in those 2 weeks, done.
Trust
Like
me.
we're not running it again. Like this
Yeah,
design
this
is
design, we're not running it ever again. This is
we're
like a
not
limited edition thing, by the way.
absolutely. So like whoever pre-orders it, there's sizes. I think the sizes go up to let me just double check, but they go up to like large. I think maybe double XL. And as you know, we ship all over the world. It doesn't matter
Worldwide.
where. Worldwide, we are literally worldwide. Let me just get yeah, I think it's double XL. So yeah, like support us if you want to support us. We've been mentioning this for a while, and again,
Us.
stuff like this, like yeah, for example, like these microphones. We want to change the microphones.
I mean,
We want to get a new camera. We want to get some lighting. We want to like. There's all these things. We just
my
want to make it.
hairstyles.
Pardon. All of those things, like we really every penny that you kind of that we get through this is going back into the brand, is going back into us being able to make the content that we want to make and expand the platform and just get it out there. There's
Mhm,
bad people who like F1. Who are
mhm.
you lot who listen to this? Maybe you guys, you're already familiar, you're already enjoying it, but there's a whole plethora of people out there who don't even know who we are, and we wanna get out to them. So yeah, they will be available at the beginning of February. 2 weeks pre-order. Once the pre-order's done, they're going to be all shipped at the same time.
Mhm.
This T-shirt will not be reprinted. Like
And
that
can I
is it.
say as well, this cotton, ooh, soft,
It is good quality.
good
Good
quality.
quality. Good
Because I
quality.
never tell you guys nothing cheap. Trust me,
We never come on.
we'd
We'd
never do that,
never.
to you guys.
And that's why it took a while as well. We wanted to get good suppliers. We wanted to get good like infrastructure so that we could ship worldwide. And hopefully, yeah, this is the best way for us to do it. So if you want to support us, yeah, we'll drop a link probably in the next podcast in a couple of weeks. And yeah, I'm really excited. I can't believe we've got merchandise. That's
That's
incredible.
really cool. I've always wanted to wear my merchandise. Also, this is also
Always.
an opportunity for you people who like to support Black
Yeah, for
businesses.
sure. Support the ting. Do you know what I mean? Like here you are. And that, you don't have to be black. You can be an ally.
Yeah,
Allies.
I know there's so
Like,
many
wait,
allies who listen to the podcast.
yeah. Do you know
Support
what
Black
I mean? Support.
businesses.
So yeah, thank you very much, guys. So we're at a very cool stage. It's not even been a year yet, and we're nearly monetized, and we're bringing out merch, and we couldn't do that without you guys. And I get emotional thinking about it because it was only supposed to be a passion project, and we can really see something tangible and something that we can really build into something really cool, and we want to be able to give back to you guys as much as possible. So the bigger we get, the more that we can give back, the more cool stuff we can do, and just basically and go from there. So yeah, basically, thank you very much, guys, for the support so far. And if you want to support more, yeah, the t-shirts will be out beginning of February. Right. Shall we
Right.
get our? Is there anything else before we get our guest on?
Oh, let me give
Oh,
a shout out to the guy who messaged me when I was in Barbados.
oh, nice. Worldwide.
Let me find him. Oh gosh. Oh man, I can't find him, but he'll know who he is. If you're
Yeah.
listening, listener, Thank you so much for messaging me and sending over some lovely recommendations for places to do and see in Barbados.
Nice. How was Barbados?
Fantastic. I'm an island gal, as you can see.
Yeah, I can see. Hey,
Yeah. At one
hey,
point, I
I
was
saw the sort of content was.
content,
Hey,
content, content,
the
content.
content was contenting.
Very much. Thank you very much. What else did I do? I drank a lot. I worked. I was out there working. That was what's most important.
Yeah,
I was out
she
there
was working.
working,
Yeah.
and yeah, I recommend everyone go to Barbados because it's safe. People are lovely, and the food is amazing, and the beaches are amazing.
Well, there you go. What a lovely recommendation. I'm glad that you're back. I was very jealous. But look, we're going to talk about some Formula One. This is a Formula One podcast. We're bringing you content in the off season, man. Like we're here for you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we're just giving you some shit. And the guest we've got coming up is really cool. So we're going to bring him on. We're going to introduce him because I think he's a pretty cool guy.
Pretty cool guy.
A pretty cool guy. Right, let's bring him on. The guest we've got on right now, okay? This is like driving pedigree that we've got on the show right now today. Guys, this guy, he's on one of the best podcasts on the internet for F1 right now, okay? He's a two-time Nuremberg endurance champion, yeah? These are levels. He's driven in British touring cars. He's driven in Race of Champions. What else do I need to say? I feel like a Team LH kingpin out here. He's changed over. He was impartial, not anymore. Welcome to the show, Mr. Brad Philpot from the Missed Apex podcast. How is it going?
Hey guys, it's going well. I've never had sound effects before. That was awesome. What an introduction.
Look, we like to hype up our guests, we like to celebrate our guests, and we do like the sound effects. There's going to be loads throughout the show. But first and foremost, how are you? How's it going, bro?
I'm okay. I'm good. Yeah, I've had a kind of long day at work on the test track, doing loads of laps, and I came back looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to this for ages.
Yeah.
And even more so after recent events the last couple of days, I was looking forward to kind of coming and getting some love from you guys.
Yes. Look, we appreciate that. Let's just get... So what did you say, Thandie?
I said we show love all the time.
We show love all the time, Nigel. It's nothing but love. Unless you're an internet troll. We hate internet trolls. You know what? Internet trolls, you get there. I hate you, man. I literally hate you, man, so much. And look, Brad, before we get into you, we might as well... There's a hot topic right now on F1 Twitter. Something which I thought was pretty innocuous, I thought was quite funny, has turned into something just completely off the charts mental for you in terms of the interactions you're getting and the type of interactions you're getting. So, for those who don't know, tell us how an innocent invite to a sim racing event it's turned into you receiving hate emails and being just sent abuse for like 2 days straight.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know me, I have been critical of Max Verstappen on Twitter over the last 6-7 months or so, maybe more.
Rightfully,
and not critical of him as a person so much, maybe sometimes, mainly the driving side of things, and we'll maybe get into that later. But I'm quite passionate about good driving standards and racing, which leads to other good racing and consistency in that kind of thing. Anyway, so I've been a bit critical of him, and that's been reasonably well known. However, I am in a Discord group, in an esports gaming Discord group with a load of real life drivers, and Max Verstappen's one of them. People will know he's like quite a prolific sim driver. And I sent an invite to loads of different drivers, just a copy and paste thing to probably 20 different drivers in this group, because I'm running an event soon, an endurance event. I'm just trying to get as many drivers in as possible. And I thought, you know what, it'd be funny if Max actually said yes. It would generate a lot of interest. It'd be great. I didn't expect him to reply, read the message or anything. But weirdly, out of all these people, a lot of whom are nowhere near the profile of Max Verstappen, he was actually the only one who replied in like the first hour. And he got back to me within about 5 minutes with a really nice message, basically saying, I don't think I'm available for this date. It is actually the first day of Formula One testing, so that's fair enough. I didn't realize that when I sent the message. And I hope you find good teams to enter. And he then followed that up about 5 seconds later with a screenshot of a tweet where I slagged him off. And so that basically, it was great, actually. It was really good from him. It made me laugh. I sent it to my friend. I was like, I've just basically been caught out by Max Verstappen. Isn't that a bit funny? And I thought the wider world might like to see that and have a bit of a laugh at my expense. So I basically posted that on Twitter. And a lot of people took it the right way and saw it as, Brad, yeah, you have been slagging him off all year. Yeah. Fair enough. He caught you out. It turns out he does know who you were, or someone very quickly pointed out who you were because it was quite a quick reply. Or he's Googled you and somehow gone back, 500 tweets and found this one.
Yeah.
But that then turned into basically a storm of hate by all of the Max fan community, and I've now since been in Dutch media. I've had tons of private emails. I've been called every name under the sun. I've had a massive viral Reddit thread about me and how I'm the worst person in the world. And yeah, it went kind of a different way to what I expected.
That is crazy. I mean, it actually gave me pause for thought, because I was like, wow, if we ever had to contact Valtteri Bottas about something, I don't know about you, but if he brought up some of the shit Thandie was saying, some of the shit I've been saying, but it would, it was all in good fun. Like I saw it for what it was, in that, you kind of got caught out. He sent that to you all in good fun. It's not like it was like, oh, F off, prick, look at what you've been saying about me. It was a bit petty. We can all deal with that. But
when he responded with the screenshot, was it like he said something with the screenshot, or he just sent you the screenshot?
He just sent me the screenshot. He replied politely, and then he just sent me a screenshot, like a mic drop. And I thought, you know what, fair enough. That's cool. And then I even said in my tweet, fair play.
Yeah, like, fair play. What can you say to that? I think there's something wider to be had about trolling and, I guess, Twitter pylons. And I think that there's some, I think there's times when I think pylons get used a bit too broadly. And I think sometimes people have talked about pylons when I think people have maybe criticized journalists in the off season. And personally, of course, I don't agree with abusing journalists, but I guess what I do agree with is the fact that if there wasn't pressure put on the media, and if there wasn't pressure put on the FIA, I don't think we'd be having the level of action that they're taking now. And I think, it's unfortunate that people like journalists probably got a lot more interactions and negative interactions than they probably would have otherwise. But it was important that, I guess, people's voices were heard. What I don't agree with, and something that we get sometimes, is just like abuse. Like, it's never that serious. Like, to send someone abuse, like, about Formula One, like, it's never serious. Don't send someone abuse anyway. But like over F1, I just find it mad. Like, for you, I guess, I know you said you've kind of used to it, but I guess on a mental kind of level, like, were there any points where you were just like, wow, this is just absolutely fucking mental?
The thing that it didn't get me, but the thing that was most frustrating is when you see people just write stuff that it just isn't true. I had some emails from a couple of people claiming I'd said stuff which I actually hadn't said, with anonymous email addresses. So you can't even reply to them and kind of put them right. And even if you did, I'm sure they wouldn't read it. But when you get that kind of, there's kind of like misinformation, and people are actually, they're so far off the topic of the thing you actually said or tweeted. And that's then been liked 500 times and shared a load of times. And you think, wow, this is out of control. And at that point, you're like, what can you do? But at the same time, that's also the kind of thing that made me stop caring, because it's like there's just so much random stuff that people are just spitting out. They just obviously want to be nasty to someone, and I'm just a target today. So
I think what you'll find is most of the accounts that abuse us don't even have real names, don't even have real pictures. It's just
six followers.
Yeah. Sat behind a computer or a tablet or whatever, just spreading hate. And I think it says more about them than anything else. It's just very simple.
Tell them again, you're a loser. Oh my god! Don't do it. It's crazy. Like, I think Engine said it. It's like, your parents would be ashamed if they knew what you were doing with their internet, bruv. Like, do not. And this is the thing, like, I'm glad we could talk about this now in this setting. I could do it on my platform. I can talk about the abuse that we get, and I can openly say, like, when I talk to Thandie's like, oh, I got this message, I'm getting this message. I'm like, I don't get anything. And it's just like people targeting, so you're targeting the girl, and you're not targeting me, you're not targeting the page, you're targeting the girl because you perceive her to be like weaker, and I think that's another conversation to be had about how people
like,
treat
if you've
black
ever
women
met
anyway.
Nyasha, like, I'm definitely not the weak one.
It's me. I'm the one crying on the podcast about how it's not Thandie. So yeah, I just find it incredible that people would do that, and like I find it really sad that people look at Twitter as like a game, and this thing of trying to get interactions and trying to get engagements by just doing the most foul shit, by spreading misinformation, and it can't be nice being on the end of that.
Yeah, but it's people have had it a lot worse than me, so I can't feel too bad about it. And also, I said way worse stuff about Max than the thing he actually screenshotted. Yeah. And I never got any abuse. All I got was like really good positive vibes from Team LH and lots of, because we're talking about driving, and I guess it's more objective. The tweet he shared that I that was kind of on New Year was probably, it was a little bit unnecessarily mean from me. I basically just said, look, next year after what happened at Abu Dhabi, I'm happy if anyone wins apart from Max and Red Bull, which actually again isn't too bad. I'm sure people write much worse. It's just how I feel. I kind of feel like they got a free one. You know, they got it when they shouldn't have got it. So I'll be happy if anyone else wins it afterwards. I just don't want them to get it again. So
tell them again. I'm just thinking of all the stuff that we've said on the Twitter page. I'm like, I think that's bad. I mean, Jesus H. Look, I think you raised a really good point. I wanted to get into, and we will get into like your background and everything, but I feel like this is like a good segue. You mentioned that you have, you've been talking about Max a lot this season, and I followed you for a while now, probably since I started listening to Mr. Abex about 3 years ago now, I think. And I would definitely say this season you have become a lot less impartial, let me say, about your commentary on F1. And it's been great to see. I love it. I feel like we've been quite similar, and I mean, I think it took you, like, not say it took you, but after a few years, you were able to do that, and we did it after a few months. But in the same way, like, it feels like it was maybe a little bit liberating for you to be able to just speak freely and kind of speak how you were feeling about the season. I guess, was that like a deliberate decision, or is that just something that came about, I guess, naturally because of how this season was?
So basically, I never really had a lot of followers in the past. So first of all, if I said something, not that many people would have read it anyway. So that's maybe the first reason I wasn't particularly vocal, because nobody would really see it or care. But the real reason is this season, it's been extremely clear how one driver in particular's driving standards have been dictating how the racing was happening on track, and how the other title contender, Lewis, was having to adapt to it. It was just a very, very obvious thing this year, because Max was thrust to the very front instead of occasionally being at the front, or, you know, every so often winning a race. He was the guy at the front that Lewis was fighting against. And he has such a specific style of driving, which goes so far against how I understand clean, good, exciting racing to be, that I couldn't help but say something about it, basically. So it's, when you have one driver who is willing to just drive the other one off the track, you know, give no space, not just a little bit of space or be a little bit rough, but literally drive the other person off, it kind of stops the races from becoming battles. They end up as one corner moves, and then the race is over. And then you get situations like at Abu Dhabi, where Lewis and Mercedes are actually frightened to put themselves in a strategic position where they have to overtake on track, even though they're quick enough to, and it would be possible to do it. They're convinced the other guy is just going to drive them off if they ever get there. So they actually strategize around and try and never even be near them. And that, I just think it ruins the racing. So I was vocal about it because he was annoying me with that. And it's not because it was Max. It could have been anyone doing that. If it was Carlos Sainz doing that, I'd have been annoyed at him. But it happened to be Max. So he's the one that I was targeting.
Fair play. You've gained a lot of followers since. And I guess you've been kind of welcomed for those points of views. Next season, do you reckon, is this how you are going to be now? Or do you reckon next season you'll try and maybe roll back the impartiality, or is this all guns blazing now? This is what I think, and go from there.
So I still think I am pretty impartial. If Lewis was doing the things that Max has done in the past season, I would have been critical, because the reason I like Lewis is because he doesn't do those things. I like Lewis because of his attitudes as a person, off track, on track, the way he conducts himself. And it's just a very, very different thing that you see from other drivers, and in particular, the one that he is directly competing against, or has been the past season. So I think I am impartial. I've been called, what was the word? I was told that I had an agenda, and I've replied to messages where I've been accused of having an agenda with, I do, and that agenda is good racing on track that means we can enjoy the battles. And if it carries on the same, if Verstappen carries on with the same attitude, and I don't expect him to do anything different because he gets it reinforced by the whole Red Bull community, then I will stay the same. But I'm just gonna be honest and call it out. If someone is being hypocritical with their driving, that someone else isn't allowed to do a thing, but you're allowed to do a thing, and whichever way around it is, and Silverstone is a big one. I mean, I kind of feel like I'm in a safe space to talk about Silverstone here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If you're the driver on the outside and the driver on the inside runs you wide, it's their fault. If you're the driver on the inside, it's still the driver on the outside's fault. It doesn't matter what position you're in, it's always the other person's fault. I can't deal with that. I find that a really bad attitude, and that's just what Max has displayed all season. So if he carries on, I'll carry on tweeting that I think it's wrong.
Nice.
Rightly so.
No, for sure. Like, it's just, for me, I think me and Thandie have been pretty clear. Probably even, since Silverstone. Like, I guess, Thandie, what are your views? I guess obviously we've always kind of spoken about it on like a race by race basis. So I guess we've never really had like a fuller conversation about, well, we probably have, but about Max basically. And I guess, do you, Thandie, feel as if do you agree with Max's driving style? Do you think that it's a legitimate driving style? Do you think that he's maybe harshly treated by people like me?
No. Harshly treated? What? No. I definitely agree that he gets away with stuff that many drivers wouldn't get away with. I think at times he can display really bad sportsmanship. I think at times he's a crybaby.
He is. He is. He actually whines more. They say Lewis whines, but this guy is on the radio.
A lot, yeah.
He whines.
Throughout the season, he was whining a lot, and he's not afraid to do it on the radio neither. Like, some people wait till interviews, but you'll just hear most of his radio. He spent it whining, and he can give it out, but he can't really take it. Whereas some people give it out and will accept it when it happens to them. However, he can't really take it. So his driving ethos is very strange to me, and I still just don't understand it.
So I think this is a good point to bring the driver coach in. So what is it? I guess you've kind of mentioned it briefly there, Brad. But I guess for those, let's take, for example, I mean, we just spoke about Silverstone. Let's take Monza, for example, right? Now, Monza was deemed to be his fault, if I'm not correct, and he was given a grid penalty for the next race for Russia, which obviously he ended up just going to the back anyway. But I guess in that situation, what is it about Max's driving that meant that he ended up parking a car on Lewis's head and then strolling off like he'd just parked it at the shops. He's just gone to go get some pick and mix from Blockbuster. Like, what is his driving style, and why is it that car ended up on Lewis's head, and what should he have done different? And I guess what's characteristic of Max about that?
So I'm sure you guys have probably covered this loads of times, but Max's style is essentially you yield or we're going to crash. That's it in a nutshell, and we can go into more detail. Monza, weirdly enough, for me actually was one of the occasions where it was less his fault than some of the other ones. I'm still kind of pleased he got a penalty for it because it was still ultimately his fault, but I think he's done worse things where he's gone unpenalized. But essentially, it just fits with his whole MO. He knew in that situation, if Hamilton was passed, in the way that race was panning out, Hamilton was going to beat him. Lewis was just quicker, and he was going to pull away. And so he basically left his car in a position that was either you really compromise yourself or we're going to crash. And what happened was exactly what one of the two things he wanted to happen. In fact, probably better than if Lewis had completely jumped out of the way, left him even more space. He could have at least maybe come back at him later in the race. But the way it panned out, Max got exactly what he needed. He didn't lose any points in that race. It was a 0 score for both of them. And every other situation that I can think of, it's the same deal. It's you get out of my way, or you yield more than you should be expected to yield. You can expect the other driver to go all the way to the edge of the track. When you get to the point where there's no more room for them and they have to leave the track or entirely back out of the move and break out of it, then that's going too far, in my opinion. You're not giving them room to exist. And all of Max's moves are that move. We saw it at Saudi Arabia in particular. You just knew every time Max got near, it was a lunge being sent, and he was not actually going to be able to make the corner, but was still then getting kind of annoyed that he was being scrutinized for it. So that's just it. That's it in a nutshell. And it was a similar thing at Silverstone. It's just he was doing it from the outside of the track. He had a car clearly alongside him. It was alongside him for a good few seconds. They got to the turning point, and he just assumed that the guy on the inside would disappear. And in my view, Hamilton had no obligation to back out. He was legitimately there. We had all this absolute crap about he understeered or he didn't make the apex. That's the key one. And then we had to go through all this weeks, I think, of trying to explain to people that making the apex has no bearing on whether a move is legal or not. And so, all they had was to point at this irrelevancy and then point at the consequence, which was 52G or whatever, and put him in the hospital.
So 51G accident, he had to come to the hospital.
Yeah.
Shut up.
All that stuff, which is irrelevant to whose fault it was. You can have an accident and get really badly injured and it be completely your fault. It's not necessarily the other guy's fault if you have to go to the hospital. And that was just another example. In that one, it didn't work out for him, but it could very easily have ruined Lewis's race again. And I think in almost every other situation through the whole season, if Lewis had stayed legitimately alongside him and not backed out, there would have been a crash and Lewis would have lost out. So it's kind of worked for Max. I just wish it had been penalised and then he would maybe stop doing it.
Yeah, maybe. I think what felt as a driver, as a racing driver, someone who's competed competitively in high levels of racing. What are your thoughts, I guess, on like the pundits? I think something me and Thandie kind of always noticed with pundits is that there was almost an encouragement of Max's driving style, right? And I guess to the naked eye or to the person who maybe isn't as into Formula One or is new to the sport, they may look at what Brundle is saying, what Paul di Resta is saying, Karun on occasions was saying before the last race of the season, that this is Max. He's a brave.
But how can you even if you don't really watch Formula One, how can you agree with anybody landing on someone's head anyway? Do you know what I mean?
Well, obviously, Paul di Resta said, and I will never forget this because I remember thinking like, this is crazy. But Paul di Resta said, if I was a team owner, I would be encouraging Max to go for that gap. The gap was there. He even tried to put a little arrow in there and show. So it's crazy that this is what they were saying. We were watching this in real time. So I guess as a driver, how did you feel about the narrative around, I guess, around these duels, and that it wasn't really kind of scrutinized by the pundits, I guess, until after Saudi Arabia, when I think they could no longer do that, because even I think Brazil, they tried to maybe to kind of maybe explain, but I guess did you notice the narrative this season being slightly weird with regards to how Max and Lewis went racing?
Yeah, I think right now, this last season would have been a nightmare to follow as a new fan if you're trying to get any kind of understanding of what's allowed and what's not allowed in terms of rules consistency, driving standards consistency, because things the pundits say and the way the penalties are applied by the stewards, who are different at most rounds, have been so inconsistent that it's just been absolutely nuts. I don't know. You must think it's a really odd sport if you're a new fan and you're watching and just trying to grasp that. And I think a massive amount of the problem is because it's been working for Max, because he's been just getting away with it, partly from people yielding, partly from Lewis actually giving him the space, and partly from the officials never really coming down on it. It's like this slow, what is it, when you slowly boil a frog, which I know actually isn't what happens. I think the frog does just jump straight out. But where like it's just in the background, and by the time you actually realize how big of a problem it is, it's too late. And that's what we saw at the end of the season, where Massey was kind of flailing. Random decisions at every race, different calls. Max is allowed to run Lewis clearly off the road at Brazil in the most blatant illegal move I've ever seen in my life. And Massey was arguing that was fine. Yeah. And then the next race, Max gets penalised for something pretty similar. There's just absolutely zero consistency. And the stewards and the race directing team have a massive amount to answer for that. And so I don't really blame the pundits in some respects from having inconsistent judgments on things themselves when they're reviewing, and then Paul di Resta's putting an arrow somewhere, or Brundle's pointing out this is okay, but this isn't okay, because there's so much subjectivity been brought into it and so much opinion when there doesn't really need to be. Like, I know every situation is slightly different, but there are some clear distinctions of what's allowed and what isn't allowed that you can make, that they just don't want to. It's almost like they're scared because they don't want to kill the racing, but they miss the bigger picture that racing gets killed because the drivers don't know what they're allowed to do and end up doing I've called Max's overtakes lazy before. And what I mean is they're kind of, it doesn't mean he can't do a good move. He doesn't need to, because he gets away with the bad, easy, cheap ones where he doesn't have to fight, side by side for a few corners. So, and that's what happens when you don't police it properly.
Yeah. And I guess speaking of policing, it is impossible for us to be on this podcast and be in the time that we are. It is currently the 19th of January. We are a month and a week after a month and 7 days after Abu Dhabi. Update to that, the FIA they've been pressured into essentially releasing the timeline for the report that's going to come out. We've had Nick Knowles. Was Nick Knowles a thing when we recorded the last one? I don't think it was. So 2 weeks ago, Nick Knowles wasn't a thing.
He wasn't, and then it suddenly become an ally, and I really like it because I've always really liked Nick Knowles.
You always had a little soft spot for Nick Knowles.
Yeah. I always watched him on. What's that show used to be on BBC One?
DIY SOS.
DIY SOS, and Nick Knowles, man, what a guy!
Wow, if someone had told me, 2022, Nick Knowles is going to be the savior of F1, I'd have been like, that is a madness. I cannot believe this. But he, for those who don't know, Nick Knowles is a daytime TV presenter in England. Seems like a really nice guy who basically, whilst he was on holiday in Sri Lanka, I think sitting by a pool, living his life, just started tweeting out, calling out calling out journalists. Hey, journalists, why aren't you saying anything about Abu Dhabi? FIA, why aren't you doing anything? And it's just culminated in essentially like FIA coming out and saying, okay, we're going to do a report. Sky doing a whole hour piece about Abu Dhabi, finally. there's been BBC pieces, and there's been more and more information coming out. And I think what I would say is I don't want to dismiss or diminish the work that a lot of ground roots supporters have been doing on Twitter, and they've really been raising awareness, like keeping up. Lewis's name has been trending for like a month straight up until last week, and that's because of a lot of the people on Twitter. Big up the 44 and all of those guys. So, Benny, I'll come to you. But, Thandie, off air, I think it's actually quite a good thing to discuss because we didn't really get to discuss it properly in the last one, as it was the end of year review show. But you have doubts that the FIA will...
You told me not to say this.
No, because you know what? Because I think the way you said it was like... if you said it the way you said it, it would have been a cancelled thing. But
right, okay.
we could reframe it as basically no. Like, I just think for you, I think it's good because a lot of people I think feel the same.
Yeah.
Why do you think that Michael Massey will still have his job next year? This year, Jesus.
Because we started calling out the Illuminati very early on in the season, and we didn't think they'd continue to do it, and then they did it towards the end of the season and completely owned the season. So I just think, yes, a report will come out, but essentially getting rid of Michael Massey, essentially admits that what he did was wrong, and he did something wrong to have gotten rid of him, which I would say would open the door for an even larger investigation into who was involved with Michael Massey in kind of sabotaging.
Yeah.
So that's why I just didn't think they'd actually get rid of him.
And I think a lot of people feel as if the report, it's the FAA marking their own homework, right? They have to essentially investigate themselves. Brad, what are your thoughts, I guess, on the FIA, this report? Do you think that it's going to chuck Michael Massey under the bus, essentially, and say he went rogue? And they'll just get rid of him, or do you think that there'll be maybe further reaching implications, or do you just think that it will be a really light touch exercise and maybe it won't be as far reaching or as far going as maybe people hope?
So my thoughts on this aren't based on any kind of real evidence apart from just things I've gleaned from listening to various people whose views I respect over the last couple of weeks. I'm going to set your mind at ease, Thandie. I think he is going to go. I think Massey, at the very least, will not be the race director this season. I don't think Mercedes dropped the appeal without any concessions. I don't think it was just a promise of, we'll look into this, and then Mercedes were like, oh yeah, fine, we'll drop it. I think they got some reasonably strong assurances that a couple of the key things they wanted are going to happen. And I think one of those is Massey gone. One of them is Nicholas Tombazis gone. Mercedes had some kind of interesting technical decisions go against them in the last year. The whole regulation shift, which was reasonably late, which just massively handicapped their philosophy in particular. And then you had the things like, the wing in Brazil. I think technical matters and stewarding matters or race directing matters have been less than brilliant in the last year. And I'm pretty sure Toto has thrown his weight around, and Lewis's continued silence and kind of threat of not coming back. I think they're at the very least going to get those things. I'd be surprised if Massey is in that role and Tombazis is as well. And I'm hopeful that the report will at least show some transparency. I actually don't think Massey was part of some greater conspiracy to give Max the title. I think he absolutely messed up massively and was under pressure and just did his job super badly and thought he had more powers than he did, thought he had this power to engineer an exciting finish and completely cocked it up, basically. And I think that's a bad enough crime that he shouldn't be in the position anymore. If the report finds he was under extra pressure from outside, from other kind of nefarious people trying to engineer the result we got, Max actually winning, then that's even worse. But even just on the face of it, if he just made a mistake, thought he had powers that he actually didn't, thought he could make up a rule on the fly and that wasn't going to be a problem, that's bad enough as it is. So I don't think he can stay in that role, because I don't think it's just Mercedes that are annoyed with him either.
No. The problem is, even if there, let's say, even if, like Ted Kravitz said, what happened in those 4 minutes in between him saying the cars are not coming in and then him saying, right, those cars are coming in? Like, what was the because when he made the decision that the cars were not going to unlap themselves, not unlap themselves, he knew there was obviously, he knew that they had, an agreement that the race shouldn't end under a safety car, and he would have had that in the back of his mind. The idea for me that he just all of a sudden remembered or panicked and then was like, oh, I need to get a race on. It is just, I just find it, at best, I think I said, it is just, I want to say, like, it is just indefensible incompetence on his part, essentially. But even if there was a conspiracy, and not that I think there was necessarily a conspiracy, but I do think there was a culture of the show over the sport, and the show was a last lap race, I guess. Even if there was a culture of that, they're never going to admit to that. They're never going to say, Liberty Media want a show, FIA want a show, whatever, and we fucked up, guys, sorry, won't do it again, here's a new race director. Like, that's not what's going to come out. And and it sucks. I guess all we could do is put pressure on the FIA to give us as far-reaching a report as possible. Zach Brown's come out with a statement earlier this week, essentially calling the FIA out on decisions that the tail is wagging the dog. Teams are having a say in regulations and technical directives, and so I think the FIA needs to get its house in order. And it's not just the safety car procedure that needs looking at. Like you said, stewarding needs looking at. Technical side needs looking at. They've not even agreed on sprint races yet this season. Like, there is so much up in the air before this season has even started, and I guess we will see. We'll see how that goes. Thandie, with all of that, how have you felt without your Lewis off-season content?
It's sad, isn't it? Because normally you'd see him on Instagram, see him prepping. Yeah. But do you know what? I'm protesting with him. I'm not asked. Do you think?
yeah. Silence is powerful.
It's deafening. The silence is deafening. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I'm here for it.
100%. Brad, what are your thoughts on? I think we can all assume that Lewis is coming back. I think the timing of the report and them saying basically, I think it'll be finalized by the 3rd, but it will obviously be communicated to the World Motorsport Council on the 18th, which is the first day of practice, 18th of March, first day of practice for Bahrain. So we're not going to know what's in that report for a while, and I guess it's going to break throughout that day. But how do you see Lewis's relationship with the media, I guess the sport going forward? And look, this is all, we don't know. He could come back and it could be just like old times, I guess. But do you think there'll be any kind of change in how Lewis operates, or do you think it'll just be straight back to business and we'll go from there?
So this whole silence over the last however many weeks has surprised me. So I think he's more upset about the whole situation than maybe we even thought at the time. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he was a bit more guarded, a bit less forthcoming with maybe the sections of the media that haven't been fully supportive in kind of calling it for what it was. Maybe it will just be like old times, but unless the report comes back and is like really overtly, yeah, we totally messed up. And then, like you say, they're not going to do this. Not going to go, yeah, actually, by all rights, Lewis probably should have won that. We messed up. It's completely our fault. We're going to do everything you want us to, changing everything. They're probably not going to do that. Not to that level. So I just imagine he'll just be maybe slightly more in his shell. I don't know. It's difficult to say, isn't it? I hope not.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't blame him because he has absolutely been screwed in this situation.
Yeah, absolutely screwed. But I guess we'll see. I don't know. It's just I'm really happy that in his silence he's getting more powerful, and I think the FIA, really, if they didn't realize how powerful Lewis is, and I guess being able to maybe feel a microcosm of what it would be like without him in the sport, they do know it now. I think he's gained over 500,000 followers on Instagram. He's not said anything. His fans have kept his name ringing on Twitter, for a month straight. The sport is lacking in someone to talk about. There's not been much content about Max, the champion. So, in what was a sizable, I'm going to put power shift in quoted marks. Max has had very little coverage comparative to what is being given to Lewis. Thandie, do you agree that maybe if I was to say to you Lewis Hamilton is bigger than F1, what would you say to that?
I would say I agree. I would say the majority of people are only Formula One fans because of Lewis. I would say certain countries are dominated. The majority of people are Lewis fans. I would say if Lewis didn't return, the viewership would definitely see the difference in the viewership. And so, yeah, I do agree that Lewis Hamilton is bigger than Formula One now. And I think Formula One needs Lewis Hamilton because he's brought a lot more to the sport than a lot of people acknowledge and will accept. Oh my gosh, it scared me.
So loud.
That gunshot took me by surprise that time. Do you have a backup driver? Say the worst happens and Lewis doesn't come back. Do you have someone that you're going to throw your weight behind, that this podcast is going to become kind of just by default a fan of? Pierre, okay, that's cool. I like Pierre.
Yeah.
What?
Nyasha hasn't agreed to it, but I'm still
yeah.
Who else are we gonna go to, please? Can you say who we go to, please? Because
I honestly, I think we would just turn into like a bunch of trolls, to be honest. I've got no skin in the game. Honestly, it would be really hard. At the end of the day, I think you've got to think about Lewis as a driver, right? I'm not going to go off too much because I can go off, but it is really incredible in terms of like just what he is as a driver and then what he brings, like just not in the car, but the out of the car stuff, and the content that we get on race day when he comes to the tracks, and the content we get Met Gala and all of these events that he goes to, and all of that stuff, and the celebrities that he brings to the grid, and that's just like the surface level, let alone the diversity stuff and whatever. And it's just difficult for me. I think it would be like a long breakup. Like I might flirt with a couple of the drivers, I might show a bit of love here and there, but I'm still really getting over my ex, and I feel like I'll have a couple of years.
You're just trying to find little aspects of Lewis in these other drivers.
Yeah, I'm looking for Lewis in other drivers. So Pierre with his backwards cap. I'm like, oh, what are you wearing today, Pierre?
I can replace him.
Like, and then maybe Yuki, I'll go to for something. But yeah, I don't know. What about? I mean, I know you're quite impartial anyway. But I guess if Hamilton was to go, is there a driver that you have, Brad, that you would kind of support?
It's difficult because you're right. There isn't anyone at all that has the non-driving elements that are anything like as interesting as Lewis, anything like as many outside activities or public views that you can say, yeah, I support that. Yeah, I'm with you on that. We align our views on that. So many issues. We haven't even touched on one thing which used to be big, but it's so different now because there's so many other things that he kind of promotes. But he's a vegan, and I'm really behind that. Although I'm a terrible vegan because I'm just a vegetarian. But I support the animal rights stuff, and I don't know really. I'd have to get to know some of the other drivers. I like the Pierre Gasly suggestion because he's been done over by Red Bull and treated really badly. So I'm behind him because I think he's a nice guy and I think he deserves better. But then he isn't someone who has had, Lewis was just such a superstar coming through the ranks early on. He was just such a successful driver in every other series and then, burst into Formula One and has always just been this phenomenon the whole time he's been in Formula One.
Yeah.
And there aren't any other drivers on the grid that are like that. You could say maybe people like Russell and Norris had mega junior careers, but then they haven't come into Formula One and had the opportunity to have a career like Lewis. So it's difficult that we don't have like this ultra mega star to point to. So I honestly don't know. I don't know who I would be a fan of. Yeah. I've become a fan of Hamilton by default because I think he drives really in a real classy way, and he's fighting against the guy that drives in the opposite way that isn't classy. So having said that, I kind of am realizing maybe I have been a Lewis fan for a bit longer than I thought. I don't know if you can read what's on my t-shirt. This wasn't intentional. I just picked this t-shirt out of the drawer, right?
I'm not slowing down for Nico.
Yeah, so that's a quote from Hungary from a few years ago. And so maybe I have supported him a bit, but that was even that was because I didn't really like Rosberg, so it was kind of Hamilton by default. But yeah, anyway, I don't have a suggestion for an alternative driver. Maybe someone who's not in Formula One yet.
Maybe that's a good one. Maybe we do. I do like the look of Oscar Piastri.
Actually, I've heard quite good things about Oscar Piastri, and I don't follow F2 too tough.
So he won. And he's won. He won F3.
F2.
Yeah. So he's supposed to really take that next step. Normally, when you win in your first year in both of them, you're I think the last person to do that was who? George? Was it George?
Yeah, maybe George.
Was the last person to go and then get into F1 basically. It would seem that he is probably the next wonder kid to have a go. Obviously, I didn't get a seat this year, but yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Brad,
right.
Are you a George Russell fan?
Yeah, okay. I think I am, and that's because I've seen Bottas. Although Bottas seems like an all right guy, fine, and he's really quick on his day over one lap. We all know he's pretty rubbish in the races and in racecraft and stuff. And I've kind of felt like that Mercedes seat has been a bit wasted, and I kind of feel like Lewis would have won 2021 with George Russell as a backup, as the number 2 driver. There were times where...
Give you a round of applause. Okay.
There were times where Bottas was so far away from featuring in, helping Hamilton win. Maybe Saudi Arabia was the one time until Mercedes got absolutely screwed by the red flag.
Yeah.
Bottas was in between them. But every time Hamilton wins, if he wins by, say, 5 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever to Verstappen, then that's quite a big gap that there should be another Mercedes in. Even if you're not quite as quick as Lewis, you should be able to slot into that gap. So I feel like maybe Russell would have done that more often than not. I also think he seems like a nice guy. It's difficult to be super supportive, right? This is going to sound really petty, and I don't feel this isn't petty. This is just kind of fact. It's difficult to be super supportive and I'm going to fail to find the right word of drivers who ultimately have come from pretty rich families. They've done the job on track, but they were always going to have massive amount of funding to get to whatever level they're going to get to.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why Lewis is a bit of a special case. He had the funding, but he had the funding because he demonstrated he was good enough and then got backing from a non-family source. And so many of the other drivers on the grid, no matter how good they are, no matter how nice they are, no matter how correct their views are on social issues, they're still kind of really rich kids that got there because they had a family that could easily put them through the junior category. So actually, here we go. We're forming more of a focus on people to support.
Ocon.
Yeah, Ocon's the other driver. I mean, I don't actually know about Gasly's history. Maybe Gasly came from a pretty working class background, but Ocon definitely did.
Yeah,
his dad was just like a mechanic with a local
Really?
mechanic shop. So I like that kind of story. Lewis's backstory is good. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, Russell. Yeah, so I like Russell. He seems to have good attitude. I liked how fiery he was when he had the crash with Bottas. I don't think he flicked his helmet in the way that people said he did. It was, and even though that was actually his fault, Bottas should not have been fighting with a Williams. So I don't really.
Questions that need answers. What is Valtteri Bottas doing in 10th place in Imola? Like, it was honestly an absolute cheeks performance. Okay, I could not believe what I was watching. Between that and Azerbaijan last year, I was just despairing. I was like, this guy is just taking the piss right now. But I don't want to talk about Bottas. He's now gone. We've actually now been freed of Valtteri Bottas, and we've got George Russell. We've got the George Russell content coming through. George is looking, hey, he's got the little turtleneck on. He's glowing up. He's chucked the white trousers away, the loafers. I don't know. Hopefully the loafers are gone. If I see those fucking loafers, bro, let me tell you now. I'm chucking them loafers. Thandie, George Russell is now a Mercedes driver.
Yeah.
You bought a open return ticket for the George Russell hype train.
Yeah, I did.
Are you going to board now? Or are you still? How are you feeling about him now? I guess he's now Hamilton's teammate.
Yeah,
he is like a Mercedes driver.
He really proved himself on the last day. He was the first one tweeting absolute crud and outrage. That was his kind of way of saying, guys, I'm now Team Mercedes. Smart move, George. I see you. Excellent PR from yourself. Excellent crisis management from yourself, and I see it. However,
Nice.
I just don't get on any train. Do you know what I mean? Because you could end up anywhere there's delays. Trains are privatized; they're not owned by the government, so they're really expensive, guys. So I can't just put myself on this train. I've got to.
You did buy an open return. An open return is an expensive ticket. Oh, you
yeah,
did okay.
I have a rail card though.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh, some of us are too old for that. Yeah, no, I a long time ago since I could get that. So you're still a bit guarded.
The card is in my wallet. Like it's on the part where you can see, the part where you can see what I can still see it.
It's out there.
Like I can see it, but I haven't really got on the train yet.
Right. Okay. No worries. Well,
I'm going to tell you what George Russell's going to do this season. It's gonna make you a George Russell fan,
right?
Thandie. It's going to push you the next step. He's going to be respectful. He's not going to be one of these teammates that is fast enough to come and really shake the tree and stir it up and take it to who should be the number one driver, like Hamilton did with Alonso. He's not going to be that, because Hamilton will ride. If Russell comes in and he's quicker, if he won that pace, he manages to just be quicker, because new generation of cars, they're kind of both starting from zero. Neither of them have got any experience with these cars, and Russell, being young, just gets to grips with it a little bit quicker and is really quick over one lap. Hamilton will rise to it. He'll just I wouldn't bank anyone else to do it, but Lewis will. He'll work out how. It might even take a couple of races. He might not. Maybe Russell wins the first two races if the Mercedes is the quickest car, but Hamilton will rise to it. And when he does, and when they're on track together and they're wheel to wheel, you are not going to have the petulance that Russell showed wheel to wheel with Bottas, because his attitude to Bottas was, you're in the seat I should have, and I'm showing the management why you shouldn't be here and I should. That is not the case with Lewis. He has loads of respect. He knows Lewis is not going to be around for many more years, and he knows that the best thing for him is to get the results when he's able to. If Hamilton has a failure or is out of the race, or Russell is just clearly too quick on a given day. But the times when they're close on track, he's not going to do anything dumb, and that's the difference you're going to get from him. I'm confident. Let's talk in like 6 months, and you can tell me I've been completely wrong. But that's how I feel about him. So I think we're all going to be chill about Russell after a few races.
Okay. I hope that Russell comes in, does well, what is going to happen is the media are going to need a narrative, and either what will happen is he'll come in and it's like you're already seeing it. Oh, I can't wait to see George challenge Lewis. George, fight for that number one spot Mercedes, and George needs to not get gassed by people talking like that, and he needs to remember where his bread is buttered. And I think it's good that Imola happened because Toto was able to sit down and say, look, George needs to remember who he drives, who he drives for, basically. And hopefully, like you said, it will be a respectful relationship. And he realizes if he can just, obviously, if he is quicker than Hamilton, cool, whatever. But if he's in situations where it's wheel to wheel with Hamilton and he's respectful and he's a good teammate and they share information, he doesn't create a toxic environment, the keys to the kingdom are his. He has got that Mercedes seat after 2024. From 2024, if Lewis retires after next season. And then he can go from there. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it because I was tired of Bot. I was just so tired of it. Like I honestly, like I think he had a great PR reinvention in the second half of the season, Bottas, with the coffee drinking and the TikToks, and the TikToks aren't fooling me, brother. Okay, because the track shit was still not up to par. But he's gone now. You can see how I think about Bottas. I actually get I get angry. I don't want to get angry. I'm happy George is coming in. He's going to do a good job. Look, let's talk about you, Brad, before we skedaddle. So, what I actually found hilarious was that the trolls that we were talking about earlier would try to denounce your driving credentials. And I just find that hilarious because most of them probably don't have a driver's license anyway. But
there's nothing wrong with not having a driver's license. Okay.
Oh my god.
Do it eventually. Thank you very much.
Okay. Oh yeah, that was a classic Thandie clip where she got at Bottas and was like, look, I don't have a driving license, but I think it was Mexico when you were bemoaning his Mexico start. That was hilarious. But yeah, but for you to have, I listened to your interview with Spanners on Missed Apex. Which, by the way, if you guys are not familiar with Missed Apex, definitely go and listen to it. It is a great Formula One podcast. And I found it really interesting, kind of hearing your story. And I thought it'd be really cool to share that with the viewers because you are such a you live your life racing, like whether that's like in your job at the test track or driving in race categories or like e-racing, like sim racing. But I found it really cool. So you took out, and we were talking about like family upbringings and people being able to pay their way, but when you were younger you took out like basically a loan to get yourself into a racing category. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think probably a lot of drivers have done that over the years. But when I was 18, it was really easy to get finance. I'm pretty old now. As about 100 Max fans told me yesterday, I'm 36 and I should act my age. So that was ages ago now when I was 18. But I did just like basically get a loan. I think I probably pretended that I earned more money. I don't think I even had a proper job. So I had to then go get a job so I could pay the loan off. And that was just to, first of all, like to buy a go-kart and go racing. I'd already karted as a kid. My family had enough money to like do a little bit of karting. And then I got to 12 and just at the point where normally people kind of take off and do loads of it, we just like ran out of money and we were like, well, that's it. Then we won't do any more. So I just did some indoor karting like anyone can go and do in the interim and watched a load of racing, and then got to 18. I was like, right, finally, I can just pay for this myself. I'll just get a big loan, bought a go-kart, bought a whole car and a trailer, and did some really low-level bad karting because the thing was a shed. Like I kept taking it to races and then be told, no, this isn't legal. These chassis went out of date like 7 years ago. You can't use that. And I was having to get bits welded. It was really bad. But I just kept getting out more money. I was like, okay, well, I'll just get a bigger loan and get a better car. And then I was like, right, I'll get another loan. I'll go car racing. I ended up with masses of debt, which I only paid off a few years ago. But it meant that I got a start and I got to go car racing. I did like club racing and Toyota MR2s, and won the championship in the first year, and that gave me confidence. And then went on to do race instructing for over a decade at like really the world's kind of biggest corporate event with really fast race cars where you're pushing people hard. So and doing that gives you tons of opportunities to not only be in race cars every day and experience, even if you're in the passenger seat most of the time, you're experiencing the G-forces, wet tires, slick tires, lockups. You're kind of in control of the car from the passenger seat because you've got your own pedals.
Yeah.
So you're just getting a feel for it. It's all sinking in. If you care about driving and getting better, and you've got your eyes open and you're paying attention and you want to be good at your job, it just sinks in. And through doing that, I just kind of learned a lot. And then I got the opportunity to coach. I sat next to Formula One drivers. I sat next to Ricciardo and gave him some, not coaching, but so Daniel Ricciardo came and was giving his Red Bull mechanics a day out. And he wanted to be their instructor. So they're obviously quite close with their engineers and stuff.
Yeah.
But our insurance policy was that one of the circuits instructors has to kind of sign you off as okay to be an instructor. So I had to sit next to him for a few laps, show him the track and that kind of thing. And we had like a little lap time shootout, and I beat him, but obviously it's my home track, so I was likely to. But it gives you ideas of, okay, these people, they're not gods, they're just really good drivers. And if you do enough practice, or you pay enough attention, you can maybe get on some kind of a similar level. And so that's basically it. I didn't have much money to do stuff, but I kept getting these opportunities of cool stuff like winning Facebook competitions, and the Race of Champions you mentioned earlier. I think that was a Facebook competition. I had to make a video and send it in, and then, if you got enough votes, then you went through to the final, and suddenly you're racing against F1 drivers at the Race of Champions. So all that kind of thing over the years has been like my weird zigzaggy path to getting to do quite a lot of driving and racing and sitting in race cars without actually ever having a kind of sponsor, which would, one season in Formula 4 for a normal driver is way more money than I've ever spent on a career, put it that way. So that's the kind of level we're talking.
It's a crazy amount of money. Thandie, when you make your millions off this podcast, are you gonna spend it on your kid to become a Formula One driver?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm doing project Serena Williams, project Lewis Hamilton, project Naomi Osaka.
Okay, so so 2 tennis players.
Yeah.
Okay, well, fair play. I like the different projects for.
Yeah, and maybe Project Jay-Z. We'll see.
Okay, nice. I can get behind that. I'll show him some bars. So, what I wanted to ask, Brad, you've got some trophies in the background in your thing there. Like, there's some really big fucking trophies.
So you've noticed my set dressing. So this is because there's like cables and like plug sockets and stuff behind me. So I literally just moved the trophies off the little shelf next to me. Just tried to hide stuff, like holes in the wall and stuff.
Nice.
These are like various things. So there's the one behind my helmet over here. That's it's for VLN Championship. So that's VLN used to be the name for the Nürburgring's Endurance Championship.
Okay,
so the big old Nordschleifer version of the Nürburgring. There's people sometimes don't realise that they're still racing there regularly. And I won that championship a couple of years running, 2018-19, that's that one. There's some go-kart trophies, like Kart Race of Champions. Big silver one over here is the one from when I had my claim to fame when I beat Vettel in the skills challenge at the Race of Champions. It's not as much of a claim to fame now as it was at the time. He was quite good then. He was like, Vettel in the Ferrari taking it to Hamilton. Now it's a different Vettel. And there's like a bottle of champagne I won at a sim racing thing. There's a Max Verstappen cut out. So
Nice.
We got a joke cut out for Spanners at Christmas. I don't even know what this is. I think that's some kind of other go-kart trophy. But so the trophies in this room, these are like the nice ones, like the ones that are clean and a bit bigger. They're the ones that my fiance lets me keep in the house. I've got like boxes of small, crappy ones out in the garage that are never going to get seen again. But
like that's super cool, man. I think it's just really commendable being able to make a life out of your passion. Like, I just think, and I think everyone, of course, we all have like high dreams of competing at the highest level, or, doing our passions at the highest level. There's 20 drivers in Formula One, like, and there's, and going through the junior categories costs millions of pounds. it is like it is really hard to do that. And so but it doesn't diminish, like I say, it doesn't diminish someone's talent or diminish someone's passion. And I think it's actually, the older you get, you realize that being able to follow your passion and make a living off it and be happy is like, that's actually like a win, like of like, which is such a great magnitude to do anyway. So it's really commendable. Like,
so one thing I learned from some of those kind of denigrating responses from Max fan, basically I got slagged off about everything you could pick a hole in my driving career. I got the worst one was BTCC. I did one weekend of BTCC with basically no practice, with old tire. It just wasn't good. In hindsight, I shouldn't have done it, but I came like 22nd out of 27. It's not a great result. I would never look at that as a good result, but given the circumstances, it was okay. You know, it was kind of, if you look at anyone's first weekend, especially when it happens to be the final race of the season where everyone else is well up to speed, it wasn't a total disaster, but I certainly wasn't happy with it. But I was getting absolutely slated by Max fans saying, this guy only comes 22nd in a series that Formula One drivers would hate. But what I've learned is that it doesn't matter who you are. Hamilton gets this kind of abuse. The most successful driver in the world ever will get people sat in their bedrooms saying, Lewis Hamilton can't drive. Max Verstappen would smash him in the same car. So actually, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what level you've raced at. It doesn't matter who you are and how many trophies you've got and how successful you've been against people. If there's someone, even if there isn't someone higher, but especially if there's anybody higher, they'll just point to that next person and go, look, you're not as good as them. So it doesn't matter. It's kind of it's a bit of water off a duck's back. And you know, these same people that are kind of slating you, if you were face to face with them at a go-kart track, they'd be the ones going, oh my God, mate, I'm so impressed with your lap time. How do you take that corner? You know, they'd be asking you for advice and like groveling to you. So it's not, that's actually the driving insults are the easiest ones to deal with.
Look, at the end of the day, going back to what we said before, they're all fucking losers. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're literally spending your time on the internet, like sending abuse, like, gosh, just, you're just sad. You're so sad. You're so sad. I actually feel sorry for you. Like, I genuinely feel sorry for you. But not for long, because I don't want to think about you guys for too long.
They'll all be gone when Max is fighting for 11th all season in a Red Bull that just can't cut it.
Mate, let me tell you now, they're all going to become Charles fans, or they're all going to become Norris fans, and it's pathetic. Like, I can't wait. Thandie, do you have anything else to say?
Be kind. That's all I'm going to say. Be kind.
Be kind.
Yeah.
Be kind. Yeah. Also, guys, stop being weird to Thandie.
Oh,
please.
My God. Yeah, please.
Don't
stop.
Thirst on her in our comments. Don't thirst on her and at her. Like, please. Like, just don't be weird.
Stop being weird.
Like,
sexual harassment online is a thing and it's happening. Be kind.
Be kind, guys. Be kind. Okay? But look, we want to be kind to you, Brad. Thank you so much for coming on.
Brad.
That was...
Oh, guys, it's been awesome.
Absolutely. I want to give you a...
It's been like a virtual hug.
Yeah, I'm glad. I hope that you have, like, felt the love from us. We really respect you. It's been so cool listening to, like, you talk about driving and just thoughts on F1 and briefly on your own career and stuff. But, we like you. Don't listen to those pricks. And thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. It's been therapy. It's been awesome.
Where can people? I mean, we're going to put your on here anyway, but I guess do you want to give a shout out to your podcast, Missed Apex, at all?
Yeah. So thanks to Missed Apex and Spanner as a host for kind of leasing me out to you guys for a night.
It's appreciate it.
He's been on here as well, hasn't he? I'm pretty sure I listened to that.
He has.
But yeah, so check out Missed Apex. Loads of off-season content going on at the moment. Great episode just dropped on Sunday. If you want to follow me, just head to @Bradley Philpot on Twitter. If you want to send me abuse, you can. There's a form on my website that's apparently just for abuse. So just click there. It's just at bradphilpot.com. And if you want to enter a sim race, if you want to enter the race that Max Verstappen turned down passive aggressively, just send me a message and we'll get you on the grid. Denzel, that was on, was it last week or the week before? He's in. He's already been practicing. I've seen him out on the Nürburgring. So if you want to enter that, let me know. But yeah, guys, thanks for having me.
No worries. Pleasure's all ours. Thank you guys for listening at home. Subscribe to the channel, please. Subscribe to Mr. Apex, obviously, but subscribe to us as well. We're trying to be like Mr. Apex. Do you know what I mean? We're trying to do events. We're trying to get Patreons. Do you know what I mean? So, subscribe to us. Follow us on Twitter, Insta. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Leave a review. All of that good stuff. We'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Also, I've just remembered what the guy's called who approached me in Barbados. His name is Mohammed Yusuf. So shout out you, Mohammed.
Shout out Mohammed Yusuf.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for being kind and offering Thandie recommendations in Barbados. But we're going to go. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Goodbye. Oh, yeah. And the merch is going to be out in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Merch will be out in 2 weeks. Is that
going to be out in 2 weeks. Brad, we got merch. Can you see the thing? Oh, my God.
I like it.
Oh, my God.
Okay.
So, yeah. Buy that. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Goodbye.